Close the doors of your mind from all carnal will, all carnal thought, all emotions, all desires, all fears, all laziness, all doubt. Anything in the center of your mind, in the center of your thoughts, in your mind, in your consciousness, in your inner being, in your inner thoughts, in your inner understanding, in your inner man, that may not allow your body and your mind to focus on the highest Shamayim above the Shabath Shamayim above the 7 heavens, above the 13 Shamayim Yahuwah Elohim, who sits in the highest Shamayim, who gives life and understanding to all creatures and all beings on the earth. Yahuwah Elohim on this Shabath, as we focus on the 11th month, that's the last day of the 11th month. Look at the hollow hand, we look at leaf, palm leaf, and productivity. We look at the truth that's within our inner being and our inner thoughts. We look at Yahuwah open up a yah, that is open right hand to us, that we may yield and increase and yield in knowledge and understanding within our inner being and our inner thoughts and our inner mind. So this Yom, as we move forward in the truth of Yahuwah, in kindness, ahab, joy, peace, patience, meekness, temperance, amunah, and we acknowledge the one who made everything on the earth, the hard and the hard of the earth, and all the rivers and streams and the mountains of the earth, the one who gives life and understanding to everybody, to every creature, every creature on earth, whether your thoughts are good or evil, knowing that He creates the evil and He creates the good. He gives shalom and He gives peace to all people. But yet, in this life, will one attain the very thing that one seeks to be translated to, and that's to the Malkuth, the kingdom of Yahuwah. Or will one lose out on the very brand new earth that will be here? So if we move forward in His truth. We move forward in His light, and we move forward in the truth of Yahuwah. Right. So this is the book of Psalms. The book of Psalms, chapter 32, and verse 1. This is the book of Tahalim, Psalms, chapter 32, verse 1. It says, Parach is the one whose transgressions is forgiven. All your transgressions, all your sins. He said, Parach are you? So he said, are you Parach today? Are you blessed today? He says, Parach is the man whom Yahuwah counts no iniquity. Like He doesn't count no iniquity, no abum, no sinah, no kata, no kata'ah. He doesn't account no iniquity. And it says, and in whose ruach is no deceit. Like we look at our inward being. In your inward being, He said, no deceit in your ruach. But said in your spiritual faculties, your celestial nature, right? That has no deceit. And we talk about the spirit of deceit so many times, but this is truth, right? Verse 3 says, for when I kept silence, my bones wasted away, right? We look at ourselves. He said, when I kept silence, my bones wasted away. He said, when you don't speak, right? What happens? You get destroyed on the inside. Because when you have deceit on the inside, and you have iniquity on the inside of your body, and you have transgression on the inside of your body, and you don't open your mouth, and you don't open your mouth, your bones will waste away. We talk about the wasting disease. We talk about the wasting disease. We talk about the wasting spirit. We talk about the destroyer. We talk about Mastama during Pesach. What is Mastama's job to do? When you don't have the blood doorpost on your house, he comes in the house, and then what does he do? He comes and destroys. He's consuming spirit. And if you don't open your mouth, then guess what happens? When you don't do a certain thing, guess what happens? For when I kept silent, my bones wasted away through my groaning all day. For day and night your hand was heavy upon me. He said, day and night. My strength was dried up as by the heat of the summer. He said, it's dried up. Right? As the heat of the summer. Get what it says, verse 5. This is what you got to open your mouth and do. I acknowledge my sin to you. Because if you don't, you're going to waste away on the inside of your inner being. You're going to waste away in your inner being. And it says, I acknowledge my sin to you, and I did not cover my iniquity. See, that's the whole point. Because when you keep silence on the inside, your inner being, in your inner nafash, in your yetzer, in your imaginations, in your thoughts, in your mukashaba, then guess what happens? Then your sin will consume you on the inside. It ain't the sins of other people. You know, people say, it's your sin. No, they say people create sins in your life, but it ain't your sin. That's their sin. That ain't yours. That's why people, that's why people, he said, you absorb the energy of other people. You absorb the energy of others. That's why I say residues, right? Residue of other people you've encountered in your life. These are just residues. They ain't your sins, though. That's their sin. You need to acknowledge your sin by taking responsibility of your sin and what you've done. And then by doing that, what does that do? It frees you. Not only from yours, but from theirs also. Because as long as you acknowledge your sin, it will waste away and you'll always be attached to somebody else's sin. Because demons work together. And demons have intercourse together. Right? And it says, I acknowledge my sin to you and did not cover my iniquity. I said, I will confess my transgressions to Yahuwah. That's the whole point. Because he already know what we've done wrong in our life. He know how many people we've done wrong. I can tell you can mention many scenarios, many situations, many people we've encountered. But guess what? He knows everything we've done. He knows everything that we've said, everything we spoke, everything we used to see. We know we practice all the things that come with Satan all and Bunalek and Aldi and Alpharus, right? And Biwi. He already know you. He already know that. A dog, he used trickery. He already know all the sins that one has done. And guess what? He said, I will confess my transgressions to Yahuwah. And you forgave the iniquity of my sins. Why? Because you can't cover them. He said, I fall in love with the spirits and the demons that dwell inside of me. No, you say you can't cover them up. You can't use it in proper judgment on yourself. Right? So this is the book of Leviticus, Leviticus chapter 26. Leviticus chapter 26. Right, no, I have nothing written up. This is Leviticus 26 and 1. Let me go 21, 26 and 21. Leviticus 26, 21. It says, then if you walk contrary to me and will not listen to me, I will continue striking you sevenfold for your sins. He said, I'm going to keep striking you for sevenfold for your sin. Why? Because you keep covering your iniquity, your deceit, and your transgressions in your heart. It has nothing to do with anybody else. And it says, and I will let loose the wild beasts against you. He said, you ever had a lion chase you? We talked about serpents and snakes and lions. He said, you ever heard a lion chase you? He said, most people never even encountered one. But you've seen a wolf before. You maybe. You've seen a mountain lion before. You've seen a cougar. You've seen a puma. You've seen a jaguar. Right? All these are a part of it. He says, I'll send a wild beast against you, which shall bereave you of your children and destroy your livestock and make you few in number. Huh? That's the whole point. He said, I'm going to send them against your children, your livestock. I'm going to send them against all that. All the things you own. It ain't just got to be your livestock. You ain't got to, I live in the ancient times. I live in the field with the animals. No, it could be, I'm going to send it against your car, your house. I'm going to send it against your finances, your job. I'm going to send it against your currency account, your portfolio. I'm going to send it against your investments. Your return on investment. I'm gonna send it against all the things you own, your mind, your health. That's the whole point. And it says, livestock, so that your roads shall be deserted. He said that your roads may be deserted. What do you mean by roads? Right? So that word for Leviticus 26, 21. That word for Leviticus, they say Yakra 26 and 21. Leviticus 26, 21, he says, let's see, 26, 21, yeah. Let me get that. Leviticus 26, 21, that word for roads is, let's get that. Yeah, that word for roads, he said, I will bring 7 times more sins. Actually, that's not the word. Yeah, 22. Leviticus 21, 22, the word for roads is, let's see, get there, Yeah, highways is Darak. Darak. He said your ways, he said your roads will be deserted, desolate. Darak. That means what? As trodden a road, a course of life. He said your whole course of life gonna be destroyed, desolate. Like we just read in Psalms. He talked about, I didn't cover my iniquity, my transgressions. He said my silence consumed me. Why? Because on the inside, if you don't say anything, if you don't confess your sins, and it consume you on the inside, it'll destroy you. It'll consume you. And it says right here, a course of life and mode, often adverbially along the way. Conversation. It said your customs, your journey, your whole journey. He said, what's wrong with my journey? He said, my journey is off. He said, what's going on? It's because of transgression, sins, and deceit that has not been acknowledged. How you say, been confessed. Going back to Leviticus 21, 26, 22. And I will let loose the wild beasts against you, which shall bereave you of your children, and destroy your livestock, and make you few in number, so that your roads shall be deserted. And if by this discipline you are not turned to me, but walk contrary to me, he said, I want you to turn to me. Because he said, you don't turn your back to my face. You will, like, you turn your back to my face. You ever turn your father talking to you, and then you turn your back to your father? If I did that to my father, I wouldn't be here today. Right? He said, you turn your back and you ignore him. Guess what happened? He said, but if you walk contrary to me, then I will walk contrary to you. He said, I'm going to go opposite what you do. And I myself will strike you sevenfold for your sins. He said, I'm going to do it sevenfold. Now, Yahuwah don't do it onefold after he won you one time. You do it seven. He's like, man, 7 times? He said, I'm going to strike you 7 times. And what today is? The Shabath, sword, knife, wrestle out, word, perfection. And why is he doing that? That's the Zan of the Aleph. He's only trying to what? Perfect you. Perfection. And I will bring a sword upon you and shall execute vengeance for your covenant. And I will gather you within your cities, and I will send pestilence among you. And you shall be delivered in the hand of your enemy. Why? It's going to be sword, it's going to be famines, pestilence, earthquakes, and diverse places. When I break your supply of bread, because we talked about last week bread. Of course, we didn't put it online, but we talked about bread, what? He talking about Yahuwah. He said, I set you at a table before your enemies. Didn't he say that? He said, when you're in the land of your enemies? He said, I put a table before your enemies. What Yahuwah say will serve on his table? He served some animal flesh? No, Yahuwah served bread. That man shall not live by bread alone, but every word that comes out of the mouth of Yahuwah. He serves bread. That's what he does. If I were hungry, I wouldn't tell you. Right? And he says what? 10 women shall bake bread in a single oven. He said 10 I'm going to bake in one oven. He said after I get finished with you. Because y'all ain't going to have your own oven. You're going to have one. We know he's looking at 10 women. You look at 10 tribes that you were separated from because of Jeroboam. And you know why he did that? Because of Shalomah. Because of Shalomah. Because Yahuwah warned him 2 times, and then what happened? He said, I'm gonna get your descendants. He says, and when I break your supply of bread, 10 women shall bake your bread into a single oven, and shall dole out your bread against you by weight. And you shall eat and not be satisfied. But that's the whole point of the whole Psalms 32. He said because they wouldn't acknowledge their sin. They wouldn't acknowledge what they've done. Right, so this is the book of the Nazarene Acts of the Apostles, the recognitions of Clement. Nazarene Acts of the Shalakim, recognitions of Clement. Right, so this is, right, so this is the recognition of Clement, page 142. chapter 21, he says his second suggestion, right? It says his second suggestion, page 142. It says, and again, the immoral serpent suggests another opinion to men. So here we go. That many of you are in habit of bringing forward. So we talk about our habits. He said, in habit of bringing forward. What happens? That there is, as we say, one Elohim who is master of all. But these also, they say, are Elohim. For as there is one Caesar, and he has under him many Shaphatim, for example, prefects, consuls, tribunes, and other officers. In like manner, we think that while there is one Elohim Yahuwah greater than all, yet still that these Elohim are ordained in this world. He said, you still believe that? It says, in answer to this, I show you how in those very things that you propose for deception, you are confuted by the reason of truth. You say that Elohim occupies the place of Caesar, and that those who are called Elohim represent the judges and officers. Hold then, as ye have adducted it, by example of Caesar, and know that as one of Caesar's judges or administrators, as prefects or proconsuls and generals or tribunes may lawfully take the name of Caesar, or else both he who should take it and those who should confer it should be destroyed together, so also is this case you ought to observe, that if anyone give the name of Elohim to any but Yahuwah himself, and he accept it, they will partake one and the same destruction. And it says right here, by much more terrible fate than the servants of Caesar. Right? So you look at all that, you know how we say, is it not written in your Torah, I said you are gods, right? It is true. But when you start to look at yourself, Yahuwah has judgment in the midst of the Elohims. And when he holds judgment in the midst of Elohim and you start to say, I'm the judge, then guess what happens? Now you're in some serious trouble. Just because you think that you're greater than Yahuwah himself, who judged Elohim, who judged other gods, who judged Caesar, who judged all these people, these rulers and kings in earth. When you start to do that, and you can't acknowledge your sins, transgressions, and iniquity, knowing that he's judging you, then guess what happens? You start to think you got it, because the only reason you even want to confess it is because you think that you're the judge. You can pull up all the Torah, all the scriptures, and everything you can do, but you think you're the judge. But in actuality, he's judging you, right? And it says right here, we're going to keep going. For he who offends against Caesar will undergo corporal destruction, right? We just talked about destruction. He's saying, I'm going to bring all your roads to destruction, right? And it says, but he who offends against him who is the sole and true Elohim will suffer ageless punishment, huh? Like, you start to look at that. You will say, if you don't acknowledge your sins and transgression, he said, I'm going to hit you sevenfold for what you do. He said, I'm going to do it. But then we look at ourselves, we say, are we pretending to be something we're not? And that's the whole point. Pretense. It says, and that deservedly as having injured by a wrongful condition the name that is unique, right? That's the whole point. Right? So going over to, he said, are we pretending? Right, so we got to ask ourselves that question, because this is the whole point of this whole thing. Right? So this is the book of, where are we going to? We're going to the book of Joshua, chapter 9. Yahusha, Joshua, chapter 9. The book of Joshua, the book of Yahusha, chapter 9. The book of Joshua, chapter 9, verse 1. Joshua, chapter 9, verse 1. It says, and as soon as all the kings who were beyond Jordan in the hill country and in the lowland and all the coast of the great sea toward Lebanon, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, the Jebusites heard of this, right? Because these are all the nations, 7 nations that Yahuwah is going to cast out before you. How many times he going to strike you? 7 times, right? And it says right here, they gathered together as one to fight against Yahushua and Yasharal. So they came as one man. He said, I'm going to strike you 7 times. And notice it's 7 nations, more mightier than powerful than you. And Yahuwah, guess what? He got them against you. But when the inhabitants of Gibeon heard that what Yahushua had done to Jericho at Ai, they on their part acted with cunning and went and made ready provisions and took worn out sacks for their donkeys, wine skins. It says worn out and torn and mended, with worn out patched sandals on their feet and worn out clothes. And now they pretending. How you say they pretending? Right? You know how people pretend? They want to make themselves look like they have a lower state. A humble. Like you say, humble and meek and lowly. They don't change their heart. They don't confess their sin. They look a certain way. They trying to present themselves a certain way. Now today they try to transform themselves and look like you. Or try to make themselves look like you in a certain way. But in actuality, they're not. And it says right here, and all their provisions were dry and crumbly. So they brought some fake food. How you say? They brought some fake bread. You know how we got bread? He's like, man, look at our bread. Look at our clothes. Look at how we look. And they bring, you know how Yahuwah say, I prepare you a table, and I prepare food in the table of your enemies, right? Where your enemies are. But then you see these people bringing some bread. It's all crumbly and molded, trying to make it look like, oh yeah, you know, we're just like you. You know, we're trying to make this thing right, because you know we saw what you did to those other people, and you know what, we're coming to you and meek and lowly. And get what he said. He said, worn out and patched with sandals, and get what it says, wineskins torn and mended, and with worn out patched sandals on their feet, and worn out clothes, and all their provisions were dry and crumbling. And they went to Yahushua in the camp at Gilgal and said to him, to the men of Yasharal, we have come from a distant country, so now make a covenant with us. That's what happens. When you have intellect, knowledge, and understanding, you defeat your battles in life. He said, we seen what you did. We seen how you overcame. Then people start to come to you with fake characters to try to make it seem as if, yeah, man, let's make a covenant together. That's what they do. When they see you overcome your battles in life, when you were losing, but then you start winning, then everybody want to come. You know how they say you losing and now you start winning, and now everybody want to come and everybody want to make a covenant with you. Everybody agree with you. Everybody feel like, man, we could be a part of what you're doing. And guess what happened? But the men of Yasharal said to the Hivites, right? He said what? But the men of Yasharal said to the Hivites, because these are the people who supposedly was getting ready to war with them. But they secretly do have a war with you. They just don't show it. They only come with it in a humble state to try to make it seem like they don't, but they actually do. But the men of Yasharal said to the Hivites, perhaps you live among us, then how can we make a covenant with you? They said to Yahushua, we are your servants. And Yahushua said to them, who are you? And where do you come from? This is the whole point. As soon as you start asking some questions, and guess what happens? They don't put on deceptive nature, right? And you know when you put on the deceitful nature, you start to lie, right? Within yourself. You start to lie within yourself. And then you're going to lie to other people about who you really are. And you know you are a liar. And then you know what you're going to do? You're going to practice deceit just to make yourself look like you're somebody, and you knowing that you're a liar within yourself. And now you think you're greater than the judge Yahuwah, and you think you're a god or some kind of Elohim now you think you're somebody. And it says right here, just keep going. It says, and they said to Yahushua, we are your servants. And Yahushua said to them, who are you and where you come from? Because people don't like questions. They said to him, from a very distant country, your servants have come because of the name of Yahuwah, your Elohim. And they say, they came from down the street. They were right there camped outside getting ready to fight you. Now they talk, now they lying. That's what they do. Man, we come from a very far, man, you know what, look, we did all these things, you know what, we want to make a covenant of peace with you. It's just like Yitzhak when the Philistines stopped of his wells. We were watching you, we wanted to see, you know, we come to make a covenant with you. When they were a bunch of liars and deceit at the beginning of it. And guess what? He gave them food too. He threw a feast for them too. And guess what happens? They said to him, from a very distant country, your servants have come, because in the name of Yahuwah, your Elohim, for we have heard a report of him and all that he did in Mizraim, and all that he did to the two kings of the Amorites who were beyond the Yarden and Sihon, and the king of Heshbon and Og Bashan, who lived in Ashar. Boy, they talking about all the things that Yahuwah did. He said, we seen it. So you don't think people ain't watching you. They watching everything you do. They watching everywhere you go. They watching all your defeats, all your losses. They watching everything. They watching all your things. Everybody that want to make a covenant, I already know they watching. He said they watching everything you're doing. They watching everywhere you go. They watching everything you're doing. And why they doing it? And it says right here, for we have heard a report and all that he did in Mizraim, and all that he did to the two kings of the Amorites. Right? Going to verse 11. So all the elders and all the inhabitants of the country said to us, take provisions in your hand for the journey and go meet them and say to them, we are your servants. So everybody, now they're making up more lies. Because they're using their cunning, they're using their crafting, they're using their wise to do evil. Now they're making up more lies. Everybody joined together. Everybody said, let's make a covenant together. Everybody saying that we should be together. And guess what happened? It says, so all the elders and all the inhabitants of our country said to us, take provisions in your hand for the journey and go meet them and say to them, we are your servants. Come now, make a covenant with us. Here is our bread. Huh? See, now they want to offer. See, when you giving out your bread, your stay, and Yahuwah's bread, and his lakam, on his shulchan, and all that, you know what people started to do? Yahushua said, I'm the bread which comes down from Shamayim. Then he said that in Yukonon 6:65. And guess what happens they do? They want to bring their bread too. And they want to offer you their bread to eat. Sound familiar? And then you know what they do that? They come lying, they deceit, cunning, and then they want to offer their bread for you to eat. And you know what happens when you eat their bread? That's what they do. Man, look, this is what I came up with. Read that. Eat that. And you say, why I gotta eat that? And it says right here, it was still warm when we took it out of our houses as our food for the journey on the day we set out to come to you. Man, it warm too. Man, you see that? Who gonna deny warm bread? Ooh, it's fresh and hot, right out the oven. That thing was good. But now, behold, it is dry and crumbly. He's like, man, look, we came from a long journey. It was hot when it came out. Now it's dry and crumbly. But still, here's our offering for you. He says, these wineskins were new when we filled them. And behold, they have burst. He said, man, they burst open. But we brought it to you with a good purpose, though. With a good heart. No, you didn't. And these garments and sandals on ours are worn out, and from a very long journey. He said, you can't see Satan. When Yahuwah brought them out of Mizraim, what happened? He said, your sandals didn't wax old. He said, you always had provisions and food, right? He's like, these people are totally opposite. Why they doing that? And get what it says. So the men took some of their provisions, but did not ask the counsel from Yahuwah. See, that's the problem. Then you start to eat it because you think they on your side. You think they for you. You think they are, a part of you. And then you took some of their provisions without asking for what? Without asking permission from Yahuwah. You know how your father say? So what you going to take that for? He said, I'm not eating that. I'm not even going to touch it. And people saying, what do you mean by that? And hear what he said. And Yahushua made peace with them and made a covenant with them to let them live. And the leaders of the congregation swore to them without doing what? Without asking for counsel from Yahuwah without doing it. And he said that's why it's dangerous. When you start to get these things, you start to gain things, you get a lot of pretenders. A lot of pretenders start to rise up. And then what happens? You'll find yourself in a very, very situation where you make a covenant with somebody and you're going to utter some things out of your mouth, and you're going to have some people among you and some people in your life that you should not have ever had in the first place because you didn't ask for permission. Right? And that's the whole point. Verse 16, and at the end of 3 days, after they had made a covenant with them, they heard that they were their neighbors. And then they found out they're liars. You a bunch of liars. You a liar. You know how you say, you a liar. I thought you said you came on a long journey. Be like, who you think you are? You lied to us. He said, and at the end of 3 days, after they had made a covenant with them, they heard that they were their neighbors and that they lived among them. And the people of Yasharal set out and reached their cities on the 3rd day. Right? All these happened, right? All right, so this is the book of Colossians. This is the book of Colossians, chapter 2, verse 16. Colossians 2:16. Therefore, let no one pass judgment on you in question of food and drink, or regard of the festival, like he say the Kag, the Muad, or the Chdsh moon, new month. I say new months or Shabath. It ain't new moon, it's new months. Right? They put that in there because they just want people to worship the moon. But it says, these are a shadow of good things to come, but the substance that belongs to Mashiach. Let no one disqualify you insisting on assessing them and worshiping of Malachi, going on in detail about visions and puffed up without reason by their sensuous mind. Because you say, what your sensuous mind? What happened? Because you see when those people came, what did they do? They came with deceit and cunning. When we came on a long journey, we came, our baskets, we heard what you did in Mizraim and all them quoting the Torah. They had we came with bread, just like your Lakam say in the Torah. You know how you supposed to bring bread and stuff? Man, we had sandals on our feet when you came out of Mizraim too. And guess what happened? He said what? They created that stuff in their own mind. And then they found out they were liars. And then what happened? With reason by their sensual mind and not holding fast to the head, to the Rosh, from whom the whole body, nourished and knit together, its joints and ligaments grow with the growth that is from Yahuwah. Verse 20 says, if with Mashiach you have died to elementary spirits of the world, what type of spirit that was? That's a lion spirit. What you call Satan. What do you mean you are your father Satan? Because Satan has other spirits that walk with him. He has a Bunalek, Alpharus, Dagon, Ashtar, Alpharus, Abiwi, Aldi. And guess what this one is? A dog. He works with Satan too, the trickery demon. And guess what he did? He deceived everybody and they thought they were with him. And guess what happened? And with Mashiach, you died to elementary spirits of the world. Why, as if you were still alive in the world, do you submit to regulations? Huh? He said you submitted to it. And what they do when you read it, they submitted to everything they said. And they made a covenant without the permission of Yahuwah. And verse 21 says, do not handle, they took of their provisions. Do not taste it, they took of their provisions. And do not touch it, and they did it. Referring to those things that are all to perish that are used, according to the human precepts and teaching. He said, we got our bread, though. We got it. And guess what they do? They pretend. Verse 23, they have indeed an appearance of wisdom. Didn't they do that? They had the appearance, they had hakamus, and they hewn out 7 pillars. They had the appearance of Pesach. They had the appearance of it. But guess what happened? That they came out of Mizraim. But guess what it says? These have indeed the appearance of wisdom in promoting self-made religion and necessity and severity of body, because that's what they were doing. Look what happened to us. We went on a long journey. Oh my gosh. It was so dreadful. Right? Severity of body and make them look like they, oh man, look at our bread. It's waxing old, our shoes. Look at that. It's all fake. But it says, but they are of no value in stopping the indulgence of the flesh. You still can't stop lying. You still can't stop it. They still can't stop lying. They still can't. Because you know why? Because they're trying to appear to be something they're not. They're pretending. And here we go. Right? Therefore, this is Colossians 2 and 5. Put to death, therefore, earthly in you, sexual morality, impurity, passions, evil desires, covetousness, which is idolatry. Colossians 3 and 5. On these, the account, the wrath of Yahuwah is coming. We just read about 7-fold for your sins. He said, if you don't acknowledge your sins, then guess what happens? I'm gonna punish you 7-fold. You just like Caesar. You get punished for doing something against his Torah law. Guess what? You do something against me, I'm gonna punish you too. Because you thinking that you're greater than the God, the Elohim, the true Elohim, the one who sits above. Verse 7 says, in these you too once walked, when you were living in them, but now you must put them all away. Anger, wrath, malice, slander, obscene talk from your mouth. And you say, what's wrong with people's mouth today? And we look at ourselves and we say, oh man, what's wrong with my mouth? And we say, man, where does this come from? Because you ate the bread of somebody you weren't supposed to eat. And get what? You did it without the permission of Yahuwah too, in your life. That's the only reason you're doing it, because you ate their bread. He said, man, why am I using profanity? Because you ate their bread. He said, man, why am I slandering people? Because you ate their bread. Why am I got malice and wrath? Because you ate their bread. That's the whole point. Why am I doing that? Because you ate their bread. I ain't feed you that. You were like, I ain't feed y'all that. You need to throw up. Literally. You know how people say, I don't want to, you know how people say, you stick your finger in your throat, you bulimic. They make these things up. You like, man, you need to throw up. And that sounds disgusting, because that's exactly what these behaviors are in Yahuwah's sight. It's disgusting. He's like, why would I do that? I remember I was training, and I went to a place, I'm not going to talk about the chain, but I ate some chicken wings back in 2004. And man, I ate that stuff and I went out to go to practice, and man, I threw up for the whole practice. He said, man, why you out here throwing up? And I threw up for 2 hours. Why? Because that bread, that food that I was eating was not conducive to the practice that I was doing. The same way when it comes to this, it's not conducive to this practice. Like, I can't slander, have obscene talk from my mouth. I can't pretend. I can't be having severity of body and pretending and doing all this stuff. That's all not conducive to the practice. And I have to throw it up in order for me to be able to practice the proper way. Because all it's going to do is stop you from practicing. That's what that food that I ate during that time, it stopped me from practicing. The whole day. I was laid out on the ground. I said, they asked me, what did you eat? I ate from this place and I ate that and all that. And guess what? And you think about it, it was without the permission of your nutritionist. You know how you say? Because you want to cheat. Because it wasn't conducive to your body type. It never was. And guess what happens? It says, you must put them all away. Anger, malice, slander, obscene talk from your mouth. Do not lie one to another. They know what they did? Do not lie one to another, because what they were doing is not conducive to the practice that Yahuwah wants. And they did it without permission of Yahuwah. Do not lie one to another. And what he says, seeing that you have put off the old self with its practices, and having put on a new self, which is being renewed in the image of its creator. I have nothing to do with that. But guess what happens? Verse 11 says, here there is no Greek, there is no Hittite, no Jebusite, no Girgashite, no Amorite, no Moabite. And when them people Hivites, and he said Greek and Yehudi, circumcised and uncircumcised. There is no, he said there's no such thing. Them people were uncircumcised. The Hivites were uncircumcised people. Yahuwah like, hold up, y'all just gonna be start doing all this exchanging, and y'all got all this lying going on and all that, and you did it without our permission. Barbarians sit you in slave and free, but Mashiach is all in all. He's like, hold up, you can't pretend. See, that's the whole point about this. You can't pretend, you can't lie. Oh, look at me, I'm on a long journey, and you got a secret battle axe in your heart. You ready? You only doing it through deceit. You can't do that. You can't do it, right? So this is the book of right. So this is the book of going to. You can't do it, right? So this is the book of 1 Kings chapter 14. 1 Kings chapter 14 verse 1. 1 Kings chapter 14 verse 1. 1 Kings chapter 14 verse 1. And at that time, Abijah, the son of Jeroboam, fell sick. He's like, ooh, got that bug. You know how they say, I got the bug. And Jeroboam, because you know why he got it. And there ain't no rocket science why he got it. And Jeroboam said to his wife, arise and disguise yourself. He's like, what? They know what them people did? Them same people did when they came to Yahushua in Joshua chapter 9. They disguised themselves. That it not be known that you are the wife of Jeroboam, and go to Shiloh. It says, behold, Ahijah, the Nabi, the Nabi is there, who said of me that I should be king over this people. Take with you 10 loaves, some cakes, and a jar of honey, and go to him. You know what he said? Take him 10 loaves, and he would say, 10 women gonna bake 10 women gonna bake in one oven. You know what he said? And some cakes, and a jar of honey, and go to him. And then what the people did, they brought some bread. Ain't that something? Everybody bringing some bread. Come on, man, bring some bread, some cakes, and some honey. You know what them other people did? Everybody got some bread. Yahushua said, I'm the bread which comes down from heaven. He said, man should not live by bread alone, but every word that proceeds from the mouth of Yahuwah. But see what happened. It says, and he will let you, and he will tell you what shall happen to the child. And Jeroboam's wife did so. So she arose and went to Shiloh and came to the house of Ahijah. And now Ahijah could not see, for his eyes were dim because of his age. He was very old. And Yahuwah said to Ahijah, behold, the wife of Jeroboam is coming to inquire concerning her son, for he is sick. Thus shall you say to her. So Yahuwah already got you, because you know he the judge of all the gods and the Elohims. He already know what you're getting ready to do. He said, I already see. And get what? And when she came, what she do? She pretended to be another woman. He's like, I pretend. So who are you? He said, what? He said, I pretend to be another woman. But when Ahijah heard the sound of her feet, see, he had a sound vibrational frequency coming from the bottom of her feet. It's a certain way she Darach. It's a certain way she Halak. See, your feet and your sound, the way you walk, you Halak, it gives off a vibrational frequency that will give you away. He heard the Darach, the Halak of her feet, and as she came at the door, and he said, come in, wife of Jeroboam. So you ain't got to see in order to hear from Yahuwah. Why? You get what he says. Come in, wife of Jeroboam. And you got what he said. Why do you pretend to be another? Huh? He started asking questions. He said, why are you pretending? Why are you pretending? He said, why you pretend to be another? For I am charged with unbearable news for you. He said, I am charged. Get what he said. Go tell Jeroboam, thus says Yahuwah, the Elohim Yasharal, because I exalted you from among the people and made you leader over the people of Yasharal and tore the kingdom away from the house of Dawid and gave it to you, and yet you have not been like my servant David, who kept my commandments and followed me with all his heart, doing only that which was right in my eyes. But you have done evil above all who were before you, and have gone and made yourself other gods and metal images, and provoking me to anger, and have cast me behind your back. You know what? You know why he cast him behind his back? Psalm 32. He said, why do you think he's sick? He said, my silence. You want to acknowledge your sin and transgression? He said, it wastes me away in my inner being. Because when you start to speak, everything starts to come out of you. It's just really that simple. You cast me behind your back. Therefore, I will bring harm upon you, the house of Jeroboam, and I will cut off Jeroboam, every male, both bond and free, in Yashar, and I will burn up the house of Jeroboam as a man burns up a dung until it is gone. Isn't that what he said? I'm gonna get you sevenfold, because you pretended. You pretending like you righteous and you pure and you got this kingdom and you exalted and you got all this stuff. You pretending. You got your wife pretending now. You done lied and now you say, wife, pretend like me. You were like, I see you. He's like, why are you walking like that? I can hear your sound vibration. I can hear you. He said, nah, pretend like me. Now you got your wife transgressions, pretending to be something she not truthful. She's deceitful and cunning. Just like we read in Psalm 32, he said, you got everybody all evil. You got your whole family evil. And guess what happens? It says, arise therefore and go to your house, and when your feet enter the city, the child shall die. And people say, why Yahushua had to die? He said, why he had to die in Jerusalem? Because remember, he had to walk. Just like his woman walked and pretended. How do we know that Yahuwah was in the Son reconciling the world to himself? He was walking with the totality of the cross all the way to the place called Skull, before Carbon, before Hebron. And guess what happened? He died. He had to die. You notice how innocent children die? Because of the father. The innocent, just like David. The innocent child gonna have to die because you pretending. And that's, oh man, so you can pretend to be something you're not, and not acknowledge your sins, your transgression, iniquities, and Yahuwah will take out your children, just like Shalom. Because of the things you do, you pretending. So pretending is dangerous too. Pretending is dangerous. Pretending, he said, I won't acknowledge my sin, transgression, and iniquity. He says, you were just slandering and gossiping and something about somebody on YouTube yesterday, last week, last month, and you never acknowledged it. And now you say, I want to pretend to be righteous. I want to pretend to be something I'm not. And these are the things that the pride, how you say, one of the spirits of sleep that Yahuwah doesn't like. We talked about that already. But we can't say, he said, ignorance is a great evil, but in actuality, ignorance is amazing, right? Just like any other beings out here. But he said she pretended, and he said, man, you got her pretending. Right, so this is the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 13, verse 1. 1 Samuel, Shamuel, chapter 13, verse 1. 1 Samuel, Aleph Shamuel, 13 and 1. Now Absalom, David's son, had a beautiful sister whose name was Tamar. And after a time, Amnon, David's son, loved her. And Amnon was so tormented that he made himself ill because of his sister, Tamar. And she was a Bathula, a virgin. And it seemed impossible to Amnon to do anything to her. He's like, man, I can't get her. Man, I'll be wooing her. I'll be seeing her DMs, right? Or I'll be doing this and I'll be doing that. He said, she a virgin too? But Amnon had a friend. He had a what? He had a friend. What he good at? Whose name was Yonadab, and the son of Shemiah, and David's brother. He said he got his own brother. You know, you got brothers and sisters. believers. Like you say, I believe in Yahuwah, I believe in Yahushua. Get what happened? He had a friend. It says, and he said to him, and get what he said, and Jonadab was very crafty. He was very wise. He was crafty, just like cunning. And get what he said. And he said to him, O son of the king, aren't you a son of a king? Daughter of a king? O son and daughter of Yahushua. This is what he said. He said, O daughter of a king, why are you haggard morning after morning? Will you not tell me? Ammon said to him, I love Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister. And Jonadab said to him, lie down on your bed and pretend, Lie down on your bed and pretend to be ill. He said pretend to be ill. Why do we say pretend? Well, that word for pretend in 2 Samuel chapter 13, verse 1, 2 Samuel chapter 13, 2 Samuel chapter 13 and verse 1. So that word for 2 Samuel, it says, lie on your bed in verse 5 and pretend to be ill. So that word in verse 5 is lie on your bed, lay down on your bed and make thyself sick. It says in some verses. That word for lay down is kalah. It means to be rubbed, worn, hence to be weak, sick, afflict, grieve, make sick. Also a stroke, flattering. Right? Because you can get some great flattering words from women or people when you fell sick. Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, you need somebody to help you. Oh, pretending. What happened to you? Oh man, we're so sorry that happened to you. And you know what? Let me do this for you. Let me do this for you. Right? All these are pretending. Like you ain't never went through none of that. You really not sick. Like people who actually went through bitterness of soul and hurting and pain and deceit and things they've been through in life, they can actually say they actually been through that. Some people haven't even been through nothing. You know, people say, oh, I've been through nothing. I've been through this. They say, you created that just to get some kind of sympathy from other people. You ain't been through nothing. So he's like, you're just creating that to be deceptive. And you got to watch this. The same thing them people did for Joshua, Yahushua. They did the same thing. You got to watch. He said, why? Because if you ain't watching, these people will find a way in your life. Right, it says right here, it says, morning after morning, will you not tell me, Amnon? It says, and we said, I love Tamar. And Jonah said to him, lie down on your bed and pretend to be ill. You know, people say they pretend like there's something wrong with them. And when your father comes to see you, say to him, let my sister Tamar come and give me bread to eat. Notice how we just went through every scenario. And there's always bread present. Look on. There's always bread. He said, always bread to eat and prepare food in my sight. There's always some bread on me there. He said, bring me some bread that I may see it and eat from her hand. From her cough. What month is this? He said, let me eat from her hand. So Amnon lay down and pretended to be ill. And when the king came to see him, Amnon said to the king, please let my sister Tamar come and make a couple of cakes in my sight that I may eat from her hand. Isn't that what that other person? You pretended. You know how they making cakes? And you would say, we said, the bread would come from Charmaine. He said, I've already condemned you already. He said, you hate the light. He said, you won't come to the light, lest your deeds be reproved. He said, you already know. He said, my bread has already condemned you. He said, you know what's going to condemn you? The words that I have spoken. He said, that's what's going to condemn you. Oh, yes, I ain't been through the same thing you did. And he said, no, you didn't. He said, no, you just trying to create something. And when the king came, and get what he said, and then David sent home to Tamar, saying, go to your brother Amnon's house and prepare food for him. Now you done lied, and now you brought somebody else into your lie. And then now they commanded other people because of your lie to help you when you are a liar. And then now you done lied one to another, and now you done created this whole scenario, and now you must fulfill that lie. And that's when you're going to get in trouble. And guess what happened? So Tamar went to her brother Amnon's house where he was lying down, and she took the dough and kneaded it and made cakes in his sight and baked the cakes. And guess what happened? And she took the pan and emptied it out before him. But he refused to eat. And Amnon said, send out everyone from me. So he refused to eat. He pretended, I'm not going to eat. Oh, I'm so sick. And guess what happened? So everyone went out from him. And then Amnon said to Tamar, bring the food into the chamber that I may eat from your hand. And Tamar took the cakes she had made and brought them into the chamber of Amnon, her brother. And when she brought them near to him to eat, he took hold of her hand and said to her, come lie with me, my sister. And she answered him, no, my brother, do not violate me. Notice how the bread, and she brought natural food, but then she started to speak the bar of Yahuwah. And guess what happens? For such a thing is not done in Yasharal to do so. This is a outrageous thing. Now she starts speaking to the bar to him. Now, man should not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of Yahuwah. And guess what happened? He not heeding to the mouth of Yahuwah and the word of Yahuwah anymore. Because he a liar. Because you're a pretender. And guess what? You think you're going to escape the judgment of Yahuwah the same way Jeroboam's wife did, the same way those people, the Hivites, did, the same way your own people, Yasharal, do. And get what it says. As for me, where could I carry my shame? He said, you don't care about me either? Because that's what happens when you pretend. When you lie. He said, you don't care about me? And get what happened? Where I'm going to carry this? As for you, you would be as one of the outrageous fools in Yasharal. He said, you're a fool. Because the fool says in his heart, there is no Yahuwah, no Elohim. Now therefore, please speak to the king, for he will not withhold me from you. But he will not do that. He will not go ask for permission, just like the people did when it came to taking the provisions from the Hivites. They did it without the permission of Yahuwah. He said, you ain't asked Yahuwah the king. You ain't going to ask him, huh? I know you not. And get what happened? But he would not listen to her, and being stronger than he violated her and lay with her. He was strong. He said that's why he was stronger than her, and he lay with her. And guess what happened? And then Amnon hated her with a very great hate. He said, why do people hate people today? Because they pretending. That's why. He said, great hatred, so that very hatred, he said, and that so that the hatred which he had hated her was greater than the love which he had loved her. And Anam said to her, get up and go. And that's what they do. He says, but she said to him, no, my brother, for this wrong is sending me away is greater than the other that you did to me. But he would not listen to her. Why? Because man should not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of Yahuwah. That's why. And guess what happens? And he called the young man who served him and said, put this woman out of my presence and bolt the door. And then he called his servants. He called his soldiers. He called the people that served him. And he said, put this woman out and close the door and lock it. And that's what he do. Because he pretending. It's called pretense. It's called pretense, right? Right, so this is the book of Right, so this is the book of This is the book of so this is the book of Luke Oriah 20 and 19. Luke Oriah 20:19. Luke Oriah 20:19. It says, the scribes and the chief priests sought to lay hands on him at the very hour, and they perceived that he had told this parable against them. But they feared the people. So they watched him and sent spies who pretended to be sincere. That's the whole point. They pretended. They pretend to be sincere people. They pretended to be sick. They pretended to be on a long journey with the sandals on their feet. They pretended to be another woman. They pretended they were so righteous, but they had idols and worshiping other gods and all these things. They pretended like Jeroboam. They pretend. They pretend to be sincere. Just like the chief priests and the scribes and the elders and the pastors and the shepherds and the high priest and the Levitical priesthood. It says that they might catch him in something he said. That's the whole point. So to deliver him up to the authority and the jurisdiction of Caesar, to the governor. To Caesar, because they thought that Caesar was the actual ruler and the Elohim. They thought that they were the God governing power. Not even knowing that Yahusha has already seen everybody. So they asked him, teacher, we know that you speak and teach rightly and show no partiality. And that's the whole point people do. They show, because there's no partiality in judgment. You know what we do? We do that though. But truly teach the way of Yahuwah. He said, we know you do it. Is it lawful for us to give tribute to Caesar or not? We know you teach this. We just read it in the recognition of Qahalath. We know, should we give tribute to Caesar? Because you know Yahuwah is the real true Elohim and judge. Look what he says. But he perceived their craftiness. Oh, I perceive you pretending. Like the innocent virgin, she didn't know that Anna was pretending, but Yahuwah did. That's why he had her speak the truth to him. When Jeroboam's wife came, she pretended. But Yahuwah already told him before Ahijah, he already said, you look at her, she already pretended. The people of Yasharal didn't know that the Hivites were pretending, but they didn't ask permission from Yahuwah. Had they asked permission, then Yahuwah would have said they pretended. But then they already made a covenant with him. So pretending is always been a part of mankind. Adam, right? And he says, shall we then render Caesar the things that, he says, go to verse 21. So they asked him, teacher, we know that you speak and teach rightly and show no partiality, but teach the way of Yahuwah. Is it lawful for us to give tribute to Caesar or not? But he perceived their craftiness and said to them, show me a denarius. Whose likeness and inscription does it have? Just like people have money today. But I don't want that money. That money is evil. You know how they say? And then what we say give it to me. Right? It's evil. Yeah, that's yucky. Yeah, you want to put that over there. But he said, what? He said, show me denarius. Whose likeness and inscription does it have? They said Caesar's. He said to them, then render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's. What you doing? And to Yahuwah the things that are Yahuwah's. And they were not able in the presence of the people to catch him in what he said. That's the whole point. You trying to catch me because you crafty, because you pretending. But marveling at his answer, they became silent. Because you know what happens when you come silent? We just read in Psalm 32. My silence consumes me. Because you have deceit. You have iniquity and transgression. And being that you have that and you want to acknowledge and confess your sins, you will have a wasting disease on the inside. And it's wasting your soul, your inner man away. And Yahusha already knew this. Like you be thinking like, we're so intelligent, we're so smart. we know all the things that like, Yahushua, like, I already know everybody's like, he already knows this. He already knows this, right? Right, so this is the book of going to so this is the book of Galatians chapter 2, Galatia chapter 2 verse 1. Then after 14 years I went up to Jerusalem with Barnabas, taking Titus along with me. And I went up because of the revelation and sat before them, though privately, before those who seemed influential. But they looked like, woo. They look influential. The truth that I proclaimed among the Goyim, the Gentiles, in order to make sure I was not running or have run in vain. But even Titus, who was with me, was not forced to be circumcised, though he was a Greek. Right? Because you know how they are. Yet, because of false brothers secretly brought in, who slipped in to spy out our freedom that we have in Mashiach Yahushua. Why? Because when you get free from the things that you've been bound to, like you're pretending and all the works of the flesh, and guess what happens? People want to come spy out what you're doing. What you doing? You know what happens? Our freedom in Mashiach, so that they might bring us into slavery. They're trying to bring us back to that same stuff we done threw up. You know, we throw up. He said, you throw up. We threw that stuff up. And you say, you want to bring me into slavery again? To them, we did not yield submission even for a moment. He said, you do. You know how they did when the fake people came, the Hivites? Even fake Yasharal, like you have fake people in Yasharal, they come and guess what? You yielded. You know what you did? You stopped and you submitted to them so easily. Them people did it. You ever see how fast they did it? They just took their provision, ate their bread. He's like, you did that quick, didn't you? Without asking you who permission, didn't you? And guess what happened to them? In that same book of Joshua, people ended up becoming slaves to them, but not even knowing that you actually became a slave for them. And you don't even know it. And when you make a covenant out of your mouth in Yasharal, you got to do it. They made a covenant with them and they knew it. Man, we got to do it. Because we can't be liars. But get what it says. And those who seem to be influential, that were make no difference to me. But actually going up. Verse 5 says, to them we did not yield submission even for a moment, so that the truth of the gospel, right? The truth of Yahushua Mashiach might be preserved for you. And for those who seem to be influential, what they were make no difference to me. Yahuwah shows no partiality. In the way he saw Yahushua, man, you show no partiality. You sure don't be bound out of these people. He like, nah, I ain't like y'all. All that immersion Yahushua have put him on. If you put him on. I guess y'all haven't put him on yet. That's the whole point. You got to put him on. If you don't put him on, you're going to find yourself making covenant over here, covenant over here, eating this bread over here, eating this bread over here. You're going to be doing all types of stuff. You're going to be all over the place. You'll be like, yeah, you know, they seem like they're humble and meek. He's like, nah, I don't believe it. It's all partiality. They're not really being honest. They're not confessing who they really are. He said, those I say who seem influential added nothing to me. You ain't adding nothing to me. People think they adding stuff. You be like, oh, you adding? I'm going to add to you what you said. I'm going to add that. You know why they adding to it? They trying to put that bread and say that's their bread. And they said, see, we're adding to that to draw other people after your stuff, their stuff. When they actuality, they are pretending to be sincere, and they are not. They ain't been through anything. They're only pretending. It said, added nothing to me. On the contrary, when they saw that I had been entrusted with the truth to the uncircumcised, just as Qahalath had been entrusted with the truth to the circumcised, for he who worked with Qahalath, it says, to thee his ministry to the circumcised work also through me, through the Goyim. And when James, or you say Jacob and Cephas and Euchanan, who seemed to be pillars, perceived the con that was given to me, they gave the right hand of fellowship to Barnabas and me. And we should go to the Goyim, and they to the circumcised. You notice how they do that? He said they gave the right hand of fellowship. You know how they say, but guess what you got to watch out for? This is what you got to watch out for. This is what you got to watch out for. This is what you have to watch out for. Right, so this is the book of Psalms. This is the book of Psalms, Talim, 144 and 3. Psalms 144 and 3. O Yahuwah, what is man that you regard him, and the son of Adam that you might think of him? Man is like a breath. His days are like a passing shadow. He's a Malachim talking to him, in a Hayya Shamayim. He's like a passing shadow. Bow your heavens, O Yahuwah, and come down. Touch the mountains so that they smoke. Why you say bow down and come down? In that, Yahushua did, he bowed and gave up the ruach, just like a person at the end of a story or a performance. He bowed his head and gave up the ruach. He said, bow down. He did that at the 9th hour. He said, flash forth the lightning and scatter them. He said, you know what he did? Send out your arrows and rout them. Stretch out your hand from on high. Rescue me and deliver me from the many waters. You know what Yahushua said? My father, why are thou forsaking me? From the hand of foreigners. Isn't that what he did? Look at this bread in our hand. Look at this bread in our hand. It's all mumbling it's all crumbled. And then what did they do? They handed them the bread, and then what happened? They took their provisions right from their hand. And get what happened? Whose mouths speak lies. Isn't that what it did? He got them. Because their mouths speak lies. Whose right hand is the right hand of falsehood. They look influential to me. He said, I'm not submitting not one. It ain't add nothing to me. Matter of fact, all the other ones I gave right hand to them, but these right hand of falsehood come from these type people when they're pretending people. He said that's the right hand of falsehood. Shakir, as we spoke about before, Shakir Kazal. But guess what he said I'm gonna do? Verse 9: I will sing a new song to you, O Yahuwah. That's what I'm gonna do. He said, why? And what you gonna do it? Upon the 10 strings harp, I will play to you. Why are you gonna play a 10-string harp? Who gives victory to kings, who rescues David, his servant, from the cruel sword. Because if people give you bread, you ain't gonna notice the sword in their hand. And they're gonna strike you with it. You ain't gonna know it. Because you're gonna be so sincere and you're gonna be so loving and caring, and you're gonna give it a little right hand of fellowship, like say the right hand of fellowship. Or the right hand, and guess what's going to happen? They got a sword in their hand to stab you in your gut. And they're going to have you wallowing in your blood right in the middle of the street. And everybody going to laugh at you. That's why Shaul and Yahushua was like that. That's why the demons say, Shaul I know. Shaul I recognize. Yahushua I know. Who are you? This is how they know. He said, I know. And get what he said? May our sons in their youth be like plants full grown. That's what you want. Why? Because when you start doing that, when you ain't giving your right hand to falsehood, then your children not gonna happen to your children. Because you're not gonna be among them. You're not gonna have them around your children. Disobedient to parents, perilous time. Timothy already told you. And guess what's gonna happen? Your children are going to grow up. Your sons in their youth will be like full-grown plants. Our daughters like grown corner pillars. You're going to hew out 7 pillars. You're going to be like a pillar in the truth. That's what's going to happen to you. Cut from the structure of a palace. You're going to be just like the bayith of a palace. That's what the bayith represents. The second letter of the alphabet. It means palace. You're going to be cut. You're like a pillar in the palace. Just like the people in the house. David had the 10 concubines in the house, keeping the house. You're going to be like a bayith in the house of Yahuwah, the body of Mashiach. If you don't give your hand out to the right hand of falsehood, though. Because they're going to make it seem like they're influenced, like they have something, but they don't. It says, may our granaries be full, providing all kinds of produce. May our sheep bring forth thousands and 10,000s in our fields. Isn't that what he said he was going to do to the people? If you go contrary to me, I'll go contrary to you. I'll strike all your sheep in the field. I'll send the wild beasts after you and your children. You know what he said in Leviticus? But if you acknowledge your sins and your transgressions and you're pretending, then guess what happens? Yahuwah says, I will multiply you thousands upon thousands in the fields. May your cattle be heavy with young. You're gonna be fruitful and multiplying, suffering no mishap or failure or barren. You ain't gonna have no miscarriages. May there be no cry or distress in our streets. Parach are the people in whom such blessings fall. Parach are the people whose Elohim is Yahuwah. This is the whole point. Right? So this is the book of Bereshit, Genesis chapter 49, verse 42-29. Bereshit, Genesis 42-29. Bereshit, Genesis 42-29. And when they came to Yaakov, their father in the land of Canaan, they told him all that had happened to them, saying, the master in the land, spoke roughly to us and took us to be spies in the land. He said, why? But we said to him, we are honest men. We have never been spies. He said, you think spies are honest people? No, he said, you think spies are honest people? He said, we ain't never been spies. We are 12 brothers. He said, we are 12 sons of our father. One is no more. The youngest is this day with our father in the land of Canaan. He's like, man, we ain't spies. He's like, we ain't spies. Then the man Yahuwah in the land said to us, by this I shall know that you are honest men. He said, how do I know you honest? He said, you coming to spy. You spying. Like, they do all types of stuff today. They got tech. They got technology. They got drones. Man, I saw a drone over the house the other day. I was like, man, they got all types of stuff. They can spy on you, man, with a drone. Just sit there and watch you over your house. Look like a little dragonfly in the sky. Hey, man, you ain't honest people. I already know you ain't honest. I ain't got to sit here and be like, let me figure out if these people are honest. Let's take up their provisions. So I'm not a fool. Right? So this is the book of, he said, we ain't never been spies. That's how Yahusha knew they were spies. He said, he said, I perceive your craftiness. You know what he said? When they came there asking questions, he said, I perceive your craftiness, though. I see it. Right, so this is the Romans chapter 2. Romans chapter 2. I think this is, Romans chapter 2. Let's go to verse 1. Romans chapter 2, verse 1. Romans chapter 2, verse 1. Romans chapter 2, verse 1. Therefore, you have no excuse, O man or woman, every one of you who judges. For in passing judgment on another, you condemn yourself. So we look at ourselves. We look at our inward man, we look at our inner being. And he said, have you confessed your sins and your faults and what you've done? And we look at all the things that one has done. Are you pretending? Are you pretending today to be something you're not? Some influential person, some person who has all this knowledge and understanding, but you pretending? Are you pretending to be something you're not? He said, I ain't pretending. I said, go back and look at our lives. He said, we are pretending. Right? He says, Therefore you have no excuse, O man or woman, everyone who judges. For in passing judgment on another, you condemn yourself, because you, the judge, practice the very same thing. So we look at ourselves, look at our inner being. You think you're going to escape the true judge? We ain't talking about Caesar. We ain't talking about the other God. Man, it's written, we got to be a God. We are gods. Yeah, we are. But understand something. There is a Elohim who sits above all gods. And he judging everybody, including in the underworld. All the way down to the panther-looking men with the hair on their head, who judge the people, who cast people into torment, and all these things. And the boar-looking men with the half man, half animal. Like he judges people all in the other realms of the world. So please don't be thinking like I'm this person and you ain't got Yahuwah can't see straight into your heart and your mind. He said, judgment on another, you condemn yourself, because you the judge, practice the very same things. We know that the judgment of Yahuwah rightly falls on those who practice such things. If you practice pretending, you're going to start lying, and you gotta create things in your life to fulfill the lie in order so you don't be discovered that you're a liar. But then eventually those things will be found out, because Yahuwah already see you. He already perceives. I'm perceiving this person ain't adding nothing to me. I already perceive. Like you say, Ruach things with Ruach things. I perceive that you're not sincere. Verse 3 says, do you suppose, O man or woman, you who judge those who practice such things, yet you do them yourself, that you will escape the judgment of Yahuwah? He's like, so you think because you got a Bible Torah, you got a YouTube channel, you fixed on Instagram, you got posts, you think because you can pull out all these Torah scriptures and do all these things and these Bible scriptures like they say, you think I've been doing it for 24 years, 30 years, 90 years, right? I've been doing this all my life. We actually believe this. That you're going to escape the judgment of Yahuwah? Or do you presume that the riches of his kindness and forbearance and patience, not knowing that Yahuwah's kindness is meant to lead us to repentance? That's the whole point. It's supposed to lead you to repentance. The rock, your journey, I perceive your steps, your Durak, your journeying. Why are you pretending? It's supposed to lead, you're pretending, your actual Durak, your journey is supposed to lead you to repentance. That's the whole point. But because of your hard, impotent heart, that's the whole point. Because of your hard, impotent heart, what happens? You are storing up wrath. He said what? You are storing up wrath for yourself on the day of wrath, when Yahuwah's righteous judgment will be revealed. And guess what? He said, if you walk contrary to me, I'm going to walk contrary to you. And I'm going to punish you Shabath. I'm going to punish you sevenfold more. Because you turned your back to me. You cast my words behind you. Verse 6 says, he will render to each one according to his works. To those who by patience and well-doing seek the Kabbalah and honor of immortality, he will give eternal life. But for those who are self-seeking, but you say, you don't even say, you say, man, forget you. I don't even gonna say his name. You think you somebody. Who are self-seeking and do not obey the truth, but obey unrighteousness. Therefore will be wrath and fury. There will be tribulation, famines, earthquakes, pestilence, diseases. He said tribulation and distress from every human being who does evil. To the Yehudi first, to Yasharal first. And also to the Hivites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, the Moabites, the Jebusites, the Hivites, the Amorites, the Hamites, to all the other gods and the goddesses, and all the other beings in the religion and the Dagons and the Ashars and the statues and all these people who worship these things, and all the other liars. But he said, I'm going to get Yasharal, Yahudah first. Then I'm going to get everybody else. So why do you think them people, when they came in, they made a covenant without asking permission of Yahuwah? You know you just did. You just stored up wrath for y'all. And guess what happens? But glory and honor and peace to everyone who does good. And we're gonna and guess what's gonna happen after that? To the Yehudi first, and also to the Greek. For Yahuwah shows no partiality. So Yahuwah not gonna be like us. He showed no partiality, right? Going back to Joshua, book of Joshua, chapter 9. The book of Joshua. The book of Joshua, chapter 9. Chapter 9, verse 8. Then said Yahusha, we are your servants. And Yahusha said to them, who are you and where do you come from? Like going to verse 12. It says, here is our bread. It was still warm when we took it from our houses as our food for our journey. And on the day we set out to come to you, but now behold, it is dry and crumbling. These wineskins were new when we filled them, and behold, they have burst. And these garments and sandals of ours are worn out from a very long journey. So the men took some of their provisions, but did not ask the counsel of Yahuwah. And Yahusha made peace, shalom, with them, and made a covenant with them, and let them live. And the leaders of the congregation swore to them. All this without permission from Yahuwah. And guess what happens? And at the end of 3 days, after they had made a covenant with them, when Yahushua rose, he rose on the third day. Let's see what happened. They heard that they were their neighbors and that they lived among them. They heard the truth. Because that's what happens after you hear after the third day. After you figure out you know Yahushua is, everybody start telling the truth. Man, we your neighbors. You know what they did? They just acknowledged their transgression. They start telling the truth about who they really are. Because that's the only way. You got to get convicted first before you start telling the truth. He said, I'm not going to tell you the truth. If nobody tells you what you did wrong, and you ain't never going to acknowledge what you did. And guess what they did? They just said, man, he said, we are neighbors, and that we lived among them. And the people of Yasharal set out and reached their cities on the third day. Now their cities were Gibeon, Kerioth, and Beeroth, and Kirjath-Shaphin. And the people of Yasharal did not attack them, because the leaders of the congregation had sworn to them by Yahuwah, the Elohim Yasharal. So once you can't take Yahuwah's name in vain. He said, I'm gonna put Yahuwah. He said, I'm gonna make a covenant. I'm gonna make a vow to somebody, and they don't keep it. Even with people who are evil, that's making war with you. You can't do it. You make a vow in marriage, you can't do it. I know people be like, yeah, you know, they just evil. I don't want to be with them no more. He's like, no, buddy. Once you put Yahuwah's name on it, you done. You are done. Sorry. You know how they had that game, Sorry? When they did the thing when you put the... Sorry. You done. You are done, man. And it says, now... their cities were, and it said right here, and that's the whole point when you believe in Yahushua. You can't do that, man. Why do you think Yahushua was saying this stuff to people? People are like, man, Yahushua really killing us. He like, man, look out here. If you do this, he didn't put away the wife and marry. Now you commit adultery. He said, why you in her place? You gonna marry somebody in her place? He's like, no, you can't do that. Once you make that covenant with Yahuwah and you swear by Yahuwah's name, he said, you can't alter that. You can't do less or more. You can't even alter it. Mashah said that, them your people. That's a whole nother subject. Now their cities were, it says verse 18, but the people of Yasharal did not attack them, because the leaders of the congregation had sworn to them by Yahuwah, the Elohim Yasharal. Then all the congregation murmured against the leaders. That's what happens. They didn't know about it. He's like, hold up, y'all messed this up. Look what you did. You the leader, y'all messed all this up. You all messed this stuff up. Y'all put this stuff out here. Y'all made these lies. Y'all made these covenants. Y'all broke the Torah. Y'all said we won't make a covenant with nobody. Make a league, and y'all did it. And now we can't alter it because of you. Because of your mouth and what you did. I'm with this person because of you, right? I'm with this person because of you, right? You did this. You know what happens? Verse 19, but all the leaders said to the congregation, to the people, to the community, we have sworn to them by the Yahuwah, the Elohim Yasharal, and now we may not touch them. He said, boy, y'all have no idea. People be thinking, he said, be careful what you say. Be careful what you say. And he says, this we will do to them. Let them live, lest wrath be upon us. Oh, so you think you're going to escape the judgment, and you are, because of your hard, impotent hearts, you yourselves are storing up wrath for yourselves. Why you think people doing? He said, wrath be upon us because of the oath that we swore to them. And people think, why all this stuff happened to me? Because you swore an oath to somebody. And you didn't keep that oath. You didn't keep that vow. So therefore, you get wrath on you. That's why you can't do it. That's why you can't, once you say something, you can't do it. You can't alter it. So you think you're going to escape the judgment of Yahuwah? Man or woman or child? And it says right here, this we will do to them. Let them live, lest wrath be upon us, because of the oath that we swore to them. And the leader said to them, let them live. So they became cutters of wood and drawers of water for all the congregation, just as the leaders had said to them. And Yahushua summoned them, and he said to them, why did you deceive us? Take heed to yourself. Let no man deceive you, man, woman, or child. Why you gave her a right hand of falsehood? But we being rightful people, we gotta still do it. But in actuality, he's still asking the question. Why did you give the right hand of falsehood? And get what he said. Why do you deceive us? Saying that we are from very far from you, when you dwell among us. Huh? Why did you lie to us? And get what it said. Now therefore you are cursed. Huh? Oh, never mind. What did he say? Now therefore you are cursed, and some of you shall never be anything but servants. He said you cursed. So you thinking you're gonna judge? You think you're gonna do practice and pretend? You think you're gonna pretend and ain't nothing gonna happen to you? You think you're gonna lie and be deceptive and ain't no judgment gonna happen to you? You think you're gonna pretend and ain't nothing gonna happen to you? So it's better to not pretend and lie and pretend to be something you're not, because you already know what type of woman you are. He said, I already know what type of man you are. I already know where you come from. I know who your husband is. You know, he said, I already know who your husband is. I know. Now therefore you are cursed, and some of you shall be nothing more but servants, cutting of wood and drawers of water for the house of my Elohim. They answered Yahushua, because it was told to your servants for a certainty that Yahuwah, your Elohim, had commanded his servant Mashah to give you all the land and to destroy all the inhabitants of the land from before you. So we fear greatly for our lives because of you, and did this thing. So fear can make you pretend, lie, and practice deceit. Close the doors of your mind from all carnal will, all carnal thought, all emotions, all desires, and all your fears. Because if you don't, you ain't going to be honest. He said you're not going to be honest. You're not going to be an honest human being. But he said, fear not man who destroys body and soul, but fear Yahuwah who, what? Destroys body and soul and casts in the lake of fire. Now you see the people they're fearing? They're fearing the gods, Yahushua, the leaders. They're fearing them. Not even knowing that they're not the judge. But guess what happens? It says, and now, behold, we are in your hand. Whatever seems good and right in your sight, do to us and do it. Why? Because now they're willing to lay down their life. No man take my life, I lay it down. You know what Yahushua said? They land on life. And get what it says. So he did to them and delivered them out of the hand of the people of Yasharal, and they did not kill them. But Yahusha made them that day cutters of wood and drawers of water for the congregation and the altars of Yahuwah to this day in the place that he should choose. So now they made a covenant, said they're going to be servants. He said, being that you were deceptive and everything, and you uttered that out of your mouth, saying that you want to be servants, so that's all you're going to be. And you must keep that. And you must observe it the same way we had to keep this covenant, and we swore to Yahuwah, so we don't wrath don't come upon us. And you got to continue to be servants, so wrath don't come upon you. So therefore, everybody got to do right in order for it to cancel out all this deceit, lying, pretending, false oaths, faking. Everybody just got to do right in order for the wrath to be subsided from everybody. That's the only way. So if people continue to pretend, then guess what happens? More wrath will come, more destruction, more wasting diseases, more everything. And you say, I don't want that no more. He said, okay, just stop doing it. Just stop doing it in your life, to your family, to your people, to your job, to your mother-in-law, your father-in-law. Stop doing it. Stop stealing time. Let's stop being everything that people do, stealing money. False reports, slander, gossip, all these things that people do, pretending to be something you're not. Just stop faking, and then therefore all this wrath will stop happening. And he said, and everything will come upon us, the things that you're supposed to have, because you can't swear something, say something in Yahuwah's name and then not do it. You can't do it. I don't care how much evil a person do. It doesn't matter if they lied and deceptive. It doesn't matter. You still can't do it. It's important. Right, so we almost finished. This is right, so this is the book of, we almost finished. Alright, so this is the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 11 verse 7. 2 Corinthians, Corinthians 11 and 7. It says, verse 7, it says, or did I commit sin in humbling myself so that you may be exalted? Because I preach the Yahuwah's truth to you free of charge. He said, I'm doing it free of charge. He says, I robbed other congregations by accepting support from them in order to serve you. And when I was with you and wasn't in need, I did not burden anyone for the brothers who came from Macedonia, supplied my need. So I refrained and will refrain from burdening you in any way. As the truth of Mashiach is in me, this boasting of mine will not be silenced in the regions of Achaia. And why? Because I do not love you? Yahuwah knows I do. And what I am doing, I will continue to do in order to undermine the claim of those who like to claim that in their boasted mission, they work in the same terms as we do. Isn't that what them people, the Hivites, did? We came along, we have bread, we have sandals on our feet. We came out of Mizraim, we heard of it, and we came out. They brought bread, they pretending. Because that's all they're doing. They're pretending to, on their boasted mission, to be on the same terms as everybody else. Verse 13, for such men or women are false shalakim. They false. They have the right hand of falsehood. Deceitful workmen. He said, why did you deceive me? Why did you deceive me? Disguising themselves as apostles, shalakim or Mashiach. And no wonder. For even Satan disguises himself as a Malach of light. Isn't that what Amnon did? Isn't that what Jeroboam's wife did? She brought bread and all these things, provision, pretending. He's like, why are you pretending to be somebody you not? Why are you pretending? Why y'all pretending to be sincere? We are honest men. We are not. So why are you trying to pretend? You can't pretend with Yahuwah. He's like, there's no pretending. He said, disguising himself as a malach of light. So it is no surprise. So please don't be thinking it's a surprise. I'm surprised. You know how to say surprise. Oh my goodness, I couldn't believe it. So it is no surprise if his servants, isn't that what those people were? If his servants also disguise themselves as servants of righteousness. Isn't that what Jeroboam did? Jeroboam? Isn't that what the woman did? You know what the people did? They pretended. Their end will correspond to their deeds. All you're going to do is be servants. That's pretty much all you're going to do. That's all you're going to do. The child's going to die. I'm going to tell you, if you don't confess your sins, you're going to waste away within yourself. It's just, and he said, why does that happen? He said it's going to correspond to their deeds. Verse 16, I repeat, let no one think me foolish. So you think Shaul was people think Shaul was ignorant. Like he's a fool. He doesn't know anything. He's stupid. Like, no, Shaul said, please don't think I'm stupid or foolish or something. I know what the Torah says. I know what's in the book. But even if I do, accept me as a fool, so that I too may boast a little. What I am saying, with this boastful confidence, I say not as the master would, but as a fool. Because I would never boast. You know why he says that? Let me show you why he said that. Right. So this is the book of Ecclesiastes. Qahalath chapter 5, verse 8. If you see in a province, this is Ecclesiastes 5, verse 8. If you see in a province the oppression of the poor, the violation of justice, as partiality and judgment, and righteousness, do not be amazed. He said, no surprise. Please don't be surprised at this. Don't be surprised at the matter. For the high official is watched by a higher. That's why Shaul said, I will boast a little. I ain't gonna be boasting all up there saying I'm something way more than what I am. And there are yet higher ones over them. He's like, man, there's higher people over me. Get what it says. But this is gain for a land. It said over them. But this is gain for a land in every way. A king committed and cultivated fields. Right? Get what it says. A king committed to cultivated fields. He who loves money will not be satisfied with money. That's why he said your children gonna be like full-grown trees. Because he committed to cultivated fields. Verse 10 says, he who loves money will not be satisfied with money. For he who loves wealth with his income, this is also vanity. When goods increase, they increase who eat them. And what advantages has their owner but to see them with his eyes? Why? Because he's talking about food. When he's talking about goods, he's talking about your crops, the things you grow, your cattle, all these things he's talking about things that people consume. Because that was wealth. It says it has their owner but to see them with their eyes. Sweet is the sleep of a laborer, whether he eats little or much. But a full stomach of the rich will not let him sleep. He said, and no marvel, right? Because they pretend, right? So this is the book of, they pretend. Right, this is the book of Ashar. book of Yashar, the book of Yashar, the book of Yashar. Book of Yashar, chapter. Yeah, this is the book of Yashar, book of Yashar, chapter 23, verse 1. It says, and at that time, the word of Yahuwah came to Abraham, and he said to him, Abraham, and he said, here am I. And he said to him, take now thy son, thine only son, whom thou lovest, even Yitzhak, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains, which shall be shown to thee. For there thou wilt see a cloud, a kabod of Yahuwah. And Abraham said within himself, He said within himself, how shall I separate my son Yitzhak from Sarah his mother, in order to bring him up for a burnt offering before Yahuwah? And Abraham came into the tent, and he sat before Sarah his wife, and he spoke these words to her, my son Yitzhak is grown up, and he has not for some time studied the service of Yahuwah. Now tomorrow I will go and bring him to Shem and Eber his son, Abar his son, and there he will learn the ways of Yahuwah, for they will teach him to know Yahuwah as well as to know that when he prayeth continually before Yahuwah, he will answer him. Therefore, there he will know the way of serving Yahuwah his Elohim. And Sarah said, thou hast spoken well. Go, my master, and do unto him as thou hast said, but remove him not a great distance from me, neither let him remain there too long, for my soul is bound within his soul. All right, so you see how he got her out. He said he was able to get her out, right? All right, so going over to verse 25, going to 23:25. Yeah. And whilst Abraham was proceeding with his son Yitzhak along the road, Satan came and appeared to Abraham in a figure of a very aged man. And what he do? Humble and contrite in ruach. We came on a long journey. We had no provisions, right? We had sandals on our feet. We came, and man, it was a long journey. Look at our bread. It's all crumbled. And then they lied. Because you know Satan. You know how he is. He said he humble and contrite in ruach. Because Satan could be humble and contrite too. He could teach humble and contrite. It says, and he approached Abraham and said to him, Art thou silly or brutish, that thou goest to do all this day to thy only son? For Yahuwah gave thee a son in thy latter days, in thine old age, and wilt thou go to slaughter him this day, because he committed no violence? And wilt thou cause the soul of thine only son to perish from the earth? Dost thou not know and understand that this thing cannot be from Yahuwah? For Yahuwah cannot do unto man evil upon the earth, to say to him, slaughter thy child? And Abraham heard this and knew that it was Satan. Because man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of Yahuwah. For when Yahuwah commands you to do something, you must comply. But then Satan comes with his bread and try to alter the course of your life, right? And he says, I knew this was Satan, who endeavored to draw him aside from the way of Yahuwah, from the journey. That's the whole point. He's gonna come in whatever form he got to do to try to draw somebody away from the journey that one has, from the Durach. That's all he wants. And if he can do that, this is what he said. And Abraham heard he said, you know what he said? But Abraham would not hearken to the voice of Satan. That's why he said, they ain't add nothing to me at all. That's why Shaul said that. That's why he said, ain't no marvel that Satan transformed himself into a molecule of light. He said, they ain't add nothing to me at all. Yahuwah already gave me what to do. He already told me what to do. You're not adding to me at all. He already told me who you are. He says, and get what he said. And Abraham rebuked him so that he went away. That's the whole point. He said, I already know. And Satan returned and came to Isaac. So then after that, he came to somebody else. It could be male, female, doesn't matter. And get what he said. And he appeared unto Isaac as a figure of a young man, comely and well-favored. He came to him as a well-favored. He looked like he was influential. And get what he said. And he approached Isaac and said unto him, dost thou not know and understand that thy old silly father bringeth thee to the slaughter this day for naught? He's like, look at here, look how beautiful I am, look at how I look. He brought you for nothing. Now therefore, my son, do not listen nor attend to him. Because his father already got the commandments on what to do. So now the father done instructed the son, and now the son, he telling the son, don't listen to the father. And when you start telling the son, don't listen to the father, then understand. When you tell me not to listen to Yahuwah, guess what you just did? You just exposed yourself for who you are. Like, it's not that hard. And get what he said. It says, and Isaac said unto him, dost thou not know and understand that thy old silly father bringeth thee to the slaughter this day for naught? Now therefore, my son, do not listen nor attend to him, for he is a silly old man. And let not thy precious soul be beautiful, and beautiful figure be lost from the earth. And Isaac heard this, and said unto Abraham, hast thou heard, my father, that which this man has spoken? Even thus he has spoken? And Abraham answered his son Isaac, and said to him, take heed of him, and do not listen to his words. Don't listen to his bread. Nor attend to him. Don't even make a covenant with him. Why? For he is Satan, endeavoring to draw you aside this day from the commands of Yahuwah. And Abraham still rebuked Satan, and Satan went from them, and seeing he could not prevail over them, he hid himself from them. And he went and passed before them in the road, and he transformed himself into a large brook of water in the road. He turned himself into a flood. He said that's what he do. And Abraham and Isaac and his two young men reached that place, and they saw a brook large and powerful and mighty waters. And they entered the brook and passed through, and the waters at first reached their legs. Then they went deeper in the brook, and the waters reached their necks. And they were all terrified on the account of the water, the flood. The flood came. They were terrified on account of the water. And while they were going over the brook, Abraham recognized that place. And he knew that there was no water there before. He's like, well, no, there was no water there before. And Abraham said to his son Isaac, I know this place which there was no brook, nor water. Now therefore it is this Satan who does all this to us to draw us aside this day from the commands of Yahuwah. And Abraham rebuked him and said unto him, Yahuwah rebuked thee, O Satan, be gone from us, for we go by the commandment of Yahuwah. That's the whole point. He said, why are we doing all this? He said, why he make a flood? Why he do all this? Why he come an old man, young man? Why he come pretending? Why he come spying, doing all this stuff? That's what Satan do. Because he's trying to turn you aside from the commandments of Yahuwah. That's the whole point. This is Yuchanan 8:44. Actually, Yuchanan 8:30. John chapter 8. John, Yuchanan chapter 8. John chapter 8. Verse 31. John 8:31. So Yahusha said to the Yahudim who had believed him, if you abide in my debar, you are truly my disciples. And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. When you get set free, you're going to get spied on. They're going to spy out your liberties. They're going to be like, hold up, how you get free from all them behaviors? How you get free from all that? How you want to be around that stuff? He's like, nah, man, I'm good. They answer him, we are the offspring of Abraham and have never been enslaved to anyone. Are you sure the offspring of Abraham? Because the offspring of Abraham, you can see Abraham see Satan a mile away. That's Satan. And get what he said. How is it that you say we were born free? So Yahushua said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, everyone who practices sin is a slave to sin. You got a wasting disease in the end of your being. You say you bringing people to slavery. You ain't adding to me. You know what he said? The slave does not remain in the house forever. The son remains in the house forever. Right? Because the servant don't remain in the house forever. The son does. So if the son set you free, you are free indeed. I know that you are the offspring of Abraham, yet you seek to kill me because my word finds no place in you. I speak of what I have seen with my father, and you do what you have heard from your father. They said to him, Abraham is our father. Yahushua said to them, if you were Abraham's children, you would be doing the works Abraham did. Why? Because you would be able to recognize Satan. He said, you can't see him? But now you seek to kill me, a man who has told you the truth that I heard from Yahuwah. This is not what Abraham did. When Yahuwah heard me, he's like, I'm telling you the truth. That's Satan. That's Satan. That's Satan. That's what he's pretending. She pretending. That person pretended. They lied to you. They deceived you. Oh, that's the right hand of falsehood. I see you. And he says, you are doing the works your father did. What works they can't recognize? They said to him, we were not born in sexual morality. He said, we have one father, even Yahuwah, Elohim. Yahushua said to them, if Elohim, Yahuwah were your father, you would love me. For I came from Yahuwah, and I am here. I came not on my own accord, but he sent me. Why do you not understand what I say? He said, why you don't do it? Why don't you understand what I say? It is because you cannot bear to hear my debar. You are of your father, Satan, and your will is to do your father's desire. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks of his own character, deceit, pretending, and he practices it continually. Lies, slander, gossip, spying. That's what he do. He ain't no different. He ain't stopped. He ain't never gonna stop. When he lies, when he spies, when he slanders, when he gossips, when he creates false reports, when he does these things, he speaks of his own character. For he is a liar and he's the father of lies. Why? Well, we came on a long journey. We had bread and everything. We just like you. Why did you deceive us? Why did you do that to us? Now we gotta keep this covenant with you. And we don't even want it. But being that we said Yahuwah's name, we can't take his name in vain. Because that's one of the 10 commandments. You know what he said? He speaks of his own character, for he's a liar and the father of lies. Because I tell you the truth, you do not believe me. Which one of you convicts me of sin? Which one of y'all got? He said, you saying I got the wasting disease? You saying I got some inside my heart? If I tell you the truth, why you do not believe me? Whoever is of a Yahuwah hears Yahuwah's debar. The reason you do not hear them is that you are not of Yahuwah Elohim. Did Yitzhak hear Yahuwah's word when he told Abraham to offer his son? No. Yitzhak was just following Abraham, his father, But his father knew everything that was happening. And the only thing Yitzhak had to do was just obey his father. All the way to the point of his life, the end of his life. And once you get to the end of your life, male or female, what happens to your life? You get eternal life. All you gotta do is listen to the Father, Yahuwah, all the way to your death, till it's time for you to go. That's what Yitzhak, Abraham was doing for Yitzhak. He was showing you how the father governs the son and the daughter. Just do what Yahuwah says all the way to the end. And then guess what? Abraham, I know that you believe. And guess what happens? You get a pardon. Because there's going to always be a sacrifice for you, opposite. Because you thinking that, I'm going to die. He's like, nah, I'm going to give you eternal life. That's Satan. That's why he operates. That's Satan. That's how he operates. And he's going to do this to the end, so don't be ignorant of his devices, because he ain't going to stop. Please don't be ignorant, right? Like he says, don't be ignorant, right? We're almost finished. This is the last couple things. And he says, right, so this is the book of Right, this is the book of Ephesians 4 and 9. It says, I'm saying he ascended, but does it mean, Ephesians 4:9, mean that he had also descended into the lower regions of the earth? He who descended is also one who also ascended far above the Shamayims, that he might fill all things, and he gave the Shalakim and the Nabiim and the evangelists and the shepherds and the teachers to equip the saints to the work of the ministry, to the building of the body of Mashiach, until we all attain the unity of Amunah and of the knowledge of the sons of Yahuwah, to a mature manhood, to the measure and stature of the fullness of Mashiach. You say maturity. So that we may no longer be children, tossed to and fro by the waves and carried about by every wind of doctrine, or you say bread, by human cunning, pretending. That's what they do. By craftiness and deceitful schemes, pretending. Because that's all they're going to do. They're going to keep pretending. It's no longer, rather, speaking the truth in love. Why? We are to grow up in every way. You got to grow up. Why do you think Yitzhak didn't know? He like, that's Satan. He like, you don't know this, don't you? He says, we are grow up in every way into him, with his head, with who is the head, into Mashiach, the Rosh, from whom the whole body joined together by every point with which it is equipped, when each part is working properly, makes the body grow so that it builds itself up in love. Right? So that it builds itself up in love. Right? This is Ephesians 6 and 10. Ephesians 6 and 10. Finally, be strong in Yahuwah and in the power, in the strength of his might. Put on the whole armor of Yahuwah, that you may be able to stand against the schemes, the pretending, the craftiness of Satan. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against rulers, against authorities, against cosmic powers, against the present darkness, against spiritual forces of evil, Ra, in Shamayim places. Therefore, take the whole armor of Yahuwah, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, stand firm. Why? Right, so this is the book of going to, what are we going to next? Last couple things. Right, this is the Odes of Solomon. This is the last thing. Odes of Solomon. Odes of Solomon. Ode Shaloma. Yeah, Odes of Solomon, Ode Shaloma, chapter 4. Odes of Solomon 4 and 1. No man can pervert the Qahalath place, O my Elohim, nor can he change it and put it in another place, because he has no power over it. For your sanctuary you designed before you made special places. The ancient one shall not be perverted by those which are inferior to it. You have given your heart, O Yahuwah, to your faithful ones. He said, what? He said, I've given your heart to your faithful ones. He said, so to the faithful ones, I've given your heart. And guess what happens? Never will you be idle, nor will you be without fruits. For 1 hour of your Amunah is more excellent than all the days and years. He said, for 1 hour. And get what it says? For who shall put on your Khan and be rejected? Who gonna put on your Khan? Who gonna put on Yahushua Mashiach? All that immersion to Yahushua, put him on. And you're gonna be rejected. There's no way. You just gotta grow up, and then you have to recognize Satan. It's just really that simple. You gotta recognize Satan and his posse. How you say his clan. Abiri, Abunalek, Akoros, right? You gotta recognize Alpharus and Aldi and Aldal. You gotta recognize these beings. You gotta recognize Beelzebub. That's the only reason that's the only way you're gonna win. He said, I'm gonna win. No, I have to recognize Beelzebub and Octone. I gotta recognize these beings. I gotta recognize Listirax and Asmodee and Asmodeus. Why? Because that's the only way you're gonna win. Because they all work together. And then many others. They all work together. It says, for 1 hour in your Amunah is more excellent than all the days. For who shall put on your Khan and be rejected? Who gonna put on Yahushua and be rejected? Because your seal is known, and your creatures are known to it, and your hosts possess it, and the elect Malakim are clothed with it. So who are you? He said, it's not possible. You're going to deceive the elect. He's going to do many signs and wonders too. He's going to pretend. He's going to be sincere. He's going to bring bread. He's going to be healing. He's going to be doing all types of stuff. He's going to be doing all types of spells. He's going to be doing all types of things. But guess what happens? He said his elect Malakim are clothed with it, with the Khan. It says, you have given to us your fellowship, not the right hand of falsehood. And get what it says? Not that you were in need of us, but that we are also in need of you. We need Yahuwah. We need Mashiach Yahushua. That's what we need. He said, why we need him? So we can recognize, so you can recognize what's going on. Right? So you don't be along with children tossed to and fro. He said, I already see you. And he real crafty too. Verse 10 says, sprinkling upon us your sprinklings, and open your bountiful springs with abundantly supply us with milk and honey. For there is no regret with you, that you should regret anything which you have promised, since the end was manifest to you. Verse 13, for that which you gave freely. He gave what? I gave without charge, free. For the wages of sin is death, but the free gift is eternal life. So that no longer will you draw back and take them again. For all was manifested to you, Yahuwah, and was set in order from the beginning before you. It was all set in order. People think, oh yeah, Yahuwah he's over all the gods and all of them. He's the higher official, and you're Elohim, but you ain't above the Elohim who judges all, you think you're going to escape? He said, you think you're going to escape his wrath? He's like, we can't do that. And get what he said from the beginning. And Yahuwah has made all. He made everybody. Right? From the beginning. Right? Going to Ode Shaloma. Ode Shaloma. Odes of Solomon. Odes of Solomon, chapter 36. Ode Shaloma 36 and 1. Odes of Solomon 36 and 1. I rested on the Ruach of Yahuwah, and she raised me up to Shamayim, and caused me to stand on my feet in Yahuwah's high place, before his perfection and his kabod, where I continue praising him by the composition of his odes. The Ruach brought me forth before Yahuwah's face, and because I was the son of Adam, I was named the light, the son of Elohim, because I was most praised among the praised, and the greatest among the great ones. Say what? He said, I was most praised and greatest among the great ones. And going to verse 3. For according to the greatness of the Most High Yahuwah, so she made me. And according to his newness, he renewed me. Be renewed in the Ruach of your mind. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And he anointed me with his perfection, and I became one of those who are near him. He said, when you get near Yahuwah, you can't pretend. He said, you can't pretend. You know what? You got deceit, transgression, iniquity. And get what he said? I will not hide my sin from you, Yahuwah. I will not hide my iniquity from you. He said, if you do that, and guess what? Yahuwah will abundantly pardon. But if you don't, and you keep silent, guess what Yahuwah say? You're going to waste away in your soul. And that's a miserable life to live. Because he can see people pretending. Verse 6. And he anointed me with his perfection, and I became one of those who are near him. And my mouth was open like a cloud of dew, and my heart gushed forth like a gusher of righteousness. And he says, and my approach was in peace, and I was established in the Ruach of providence. Right? Right. This is Aleph Yuchanan 1:2-24. Aleph Yuchanan, John, 1 John 2:24. Let what you heard from the beginning abide in you. And if what you heard from the beginning abides in you, inside of you, then you too will abide in the Son and in the Father. The Ab and the Ben, the life of the house and the strength of the house. Why? Because you abide in the Son and the Father. Just like in Abraham, he said, if you will Abraham, see, you will love me. Because when you live in the house of the Son and the Father, Abraham and his son, guess what? That's Satan. That's Satan. That's Satan. That's pretending. That person over there got deceit. They lying. That's falsehood. Right hand of falsehood. He looks influential, but no, that's deceit. Don't go that way. Don't eat his bread. Touch not, taste not, handle not. Don't follow their ways and their understanding. They pretending, they show little signs, but understand they're only there to deceive you, because you don't want to be deceived in this world. Right? He said, let what you heard from the beginning abide in you. And if what you heard from the beginning abides in you, you too will abide in the Son and the Father. And this is the promise he has made to us. Eternal life. That's the promise. People say, I want the promise. That is the promise. Abide in the Son and the Father. And you got to abide in the Son and the Father until the end. And then in the end, you know what happened at the end of Isaac when he was about to die? He said, no, Abraham, I believe. And guess what? It was a ram caught in the thickets with. And he said, offer that up. And he said, who is that? Yahushua Mashiach. It was Yahushua Mashiach. He was a person that was supposed to be in place. He was in the place of you. And then when you accept him, guess what? He said, all that immersion to Yahushua I put on Yahushua Mashiach. And yet when you put on Yahushua Mashiach, you abide in the Son and in the Father. And if you endure to the end, just like the Son and the Father, guess who's going to tell you that's Satan, that's Satan, that's Satan? Yahuwah going to tell you. Yahuwah going to tell you. Don't walk in the way of them. Don't walk in the way of them. Don't walk in the way of that person, that person, that person. He's going to tell you before they get there. You know this person pretending. He said, why are you walking that way? Why you do rock? Why are you pretending? I already know that you the wife of such and such. I know you the wife of Jeroboam. I know who you are. You ain't got to pretend. Because you know, guess what? Guess what? This is Ukanon 9, last thing. Ukanon 9, 35. Ukanon 9, 35. Ukanon, John 9, 35. Yahushua heard that they had cast him out and found him and said, do you believe in the son of Adam? This is a man who was born blind. Matter of fact, wasn't Ahijah blind? He said he was old too. His eyes were dim too. He couldn't see. And he said, do you believe in the son of Adam? And he answered, who is he, sir, that I may believe in him? Yahushua said to him, you have seen him, and it is he who is speaking to you. Because he healed his blindness. He couldn't see before. But Yahushua spoke to him, and he believed his words. And he never saw him. Just like Ahijah never saw the woman who was coming with Jeroboam, from Jeroboam. She was pretending. But Yahushua said, Jeroboam's wife's coming. And this is what you're going to say to her. And he said, do you believe in the son of Adam? He answered, who is he, sir, that I may believe in him? Yahushua said to him, you have seen him, and he is he who is speaking to you. That's how Satan comes. He said, who is he, sir? It is I, and I'm speaking to you. In the way that's what Satan do. You're this foolish old man. Satan always uses deception. And get what the 38 said. And he said, Master, I believe. And he worshipped him. And Yahushua said, for judgment I have come into this world. Because there's a higher person who sits above Caesar. Who sits above Dagon, Ashar, and a higher person sits above Satan and Satan and Mastama. There's a higher person who sits above Moses and Mashah. There's a higher person who sits above Solomon and David and Abigail. There's a higher person who sits above Deborah. There's a higher person who sits above Sarah and Rebecca and Rakal. Right? There's a higher person who sits above Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov, and Adam and Kul. There's a higher person who sits above all. Sheth and Shem and Ham and Nuach. There's a higher official. There's somebody higher than you. People thinking it's them. No, it's somebody higher than you, than Nathaniel, than Kaf and Shaul. There's somebody higher. Don't be foolish. There's a higher official. He said, for judgment I come into this world. Yahushua higher than us. You get what he said? He said, do you believe in the son of Adam? He answered, the son of Yahuwah, he answered, sir, answered, and he said, and who is he, sir, that I may believe in him? And Yahushua said to him, you have seen him, and it is he who is speaking to you. He said, Master, I believe, and I worship him. And he worshiped him. Yahushua said, for judgment I have come into this world, that those who do not see may see, and those who see may become blind. Could Ahijah see? No, he couldn't see. It was dim, but he could still see though. And those who see, they may become blind. You really actually thought you could see. Some of the Pharisees heard him, the people who were pretending. You know, the pretenders. The Pharisees heard him. He said, some of the Pharisees near him heard these things. And then we just read in Ode Shalom, he said they were near him. He said, I was like one who was near him. We near him, right? He said, I was just like one who near him. Some of the Pharisees near him heard these things and said to him, are we blind? Yahushua said to them, if you were blind, you will have no guilt. You will confess your sins. And I will abundantly forgive your sins for pretending as if you near me and you wanted me. He said, you would actually confess your sin. You won't hide your iniquity. You won't hide who you really are. But being that you say we see, being that you hide your sin, just like Psalm 32, just like Leviticus, Yahweh 26, he said, being that you say you see, we see, man. He said, your guilt remains. Your wasting disease on the inside, they still remains. Why? Because one will not acknowledge what they have done, and they're pretending and who they are. So we look at all that, look at Yahushua Mashiach, look at the light of life. We look at not pretending, not showing craftiness and Qahalath, except within ourselves. When one approaches Yahuwah and acknowledge our sin and transgression, but not only acknowledging it, but actually saying our iniquity, our deceit, and our transgression. And not pretending to other people, not lying and not creating things and slandering and gossiping and spying and doing all these things that people do today. But these are all a part of the spirit of deceit. And that's the deceit that's in the heart. That's what Yahushua says, being that you think you see. He said your guilt remains because you refuse to acknowledge your stony hard heart. And your hard, impudent heart is why you're storing up wrath for yourself. For one can be a judge and then says, are we escaping the judgment of Yahuwah? Both male or female, are we escaping the judgment of Yahuwah? We are storing up wrath because of our own hard and impudent heart. And we are transforming ourselves into, he said, you can transform yourself into a Malachi of light and be a servant of Satan and transform yourself and be a teacher of righteousness. Not even knowing on the inside of your heart, Yahuwah can see straight into your mind and your heart. And he can see that you stored up something you should have already said that you have done. So we look at ourselves, we look at our inward man, we look at our inner being. And just like Timothy says, he told him, he said, pay attention to teaching. You both say yourself and those who hear you. Right? We look at ourselves and look at our inward being, and you look at your own life. Right? Because we can look at other people's life. Because you can create a life. You can create a life on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We can deck ourselves with nice things, and make ourselves appear as if we're righteous with money. But in actuality, as Hanuk said, you are storing up wrath for your own self. He said you will not have no peace at the end of your life. So we look at ourselves, we look at our inward being, we look at Yahushua Mashiach and his redemption blood that he shared for us by offering himself as a sacrifice for us, as a willing sacrifice, that we may no longer, he said, those who see may become blind, those who are blind may see, and those who think they see may become blind. Because when he was on totality, the sun went down at noon, and it was darkness over all. And those who were blind were the people mocking, were the people slandering, were the people gossiping, were the people saying things about him, things that were not true. And some things were true, but they just didn't understand it. He said they were blind, not even knowing that darkness was over the whole land, was the darkness that was in their heart. And he being blinded, they ended up slaying their only son because they refused to acknowledge who they really are. Right? So we look at ourselves, and we look at our inward being. We need to look not to be blinded by that same darkness. For we are one that needs our eyes open continually. For he said, we're not ignorant of Satan's devices, but he's always coming up with another scheme. Just like the book of Yashar says, with Balaam and all of them, he said, this has never been done before. They're always trying to figure out a way and things around to try to deceive. So we must always be vigilant, for our adversary is always scheming to try to come up with a plot to deceive the elect. So as we move forward in the love and compassion of Yahushua Mashiach and the light of light. But even as he said, blessed are they who hunger and thirst after righteousness, and blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. The meek shall inherit the earth.